Hey, if you're here to find new manga to read and stumble upon several videos talking about Gachiakuta being the next big thing or a video saying it will get worse, the manga community is divided in this like it always is. I will discuss its concept, world building, character, and art style, and in the end, I'll put my mini theory or suggestion into the story so you can decide if you're going to read it or if you should skip it. Please tell me in the comments about your decision. Everyone has a specific taste. I got a friend who just read the manga of Demon Slayer and never watched the anime, and he's still one of my best friends. Damn, I need new friends. The only thing I know about Gachiakuta before reading it is its connection with Fire Force and Soul Eater, which is honestly not the best in my opinion, but I'm sure someone out there's a person that their favorite manga or anime is one of those two. Then who am I to judge, right? Another man's trash is another man's treasure, which is the theme of the manga we're gonna discuss in this video. So for anyone who doesn't know, Gachiakuta is a dark, let's say punk fantasy manga series by Kei Urana featuring graffiti design by Ando Hideyoshi. It tells the story of Rudo, a young orphan from the slums who has been wrongly accused of a crime and sentenced to death. He is banished to the Abyss, a desolated wasteland where the story unfolds. But before we go to the Abyss, we need to talk about the society that puts him there. A heavily divided society. There's a panel that represents this in chapter 1 that hits hard. Not the best panel or the prettiest, it just sets the tone that depressingly mirrors third world country societies like Mexico, Philippines, and some African countries. With that, you already know that this will be a punk type manga, especially with the graffiti art style. Honestly, you can see characters or things in this manga on a wall that smells like pee. It's bold they chose this art style to begin with, however, let's talk about it later. This place I'm talking about isn't the exact setting of the story, because as I said earlier, that he got banished from this place, and the actual story starts when Rudo wakes up in the Abyss, and all the trash that the divided city makes gets thrown out on the surface. Like that Matt Damon movie where he pretends to be John Wick. If you know that movie, then you know the concept. It's easy to follow, but this is a shonen manga. The law dictates it needs to have either brain-dead action, romance that doesn't make sense, or suicide fuel. That doesn't sound positive. I love shonen manga and anime, so I'll show this manga some love by explaining the power system as vague as possible. Here's the gist. If you love any object long enough, it can give you an ability. These are called
Jinkies, 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 jinkies.
So what do you think happened when you throw something you used to like? Well, in this world, all emotions applied to millions of dump thrown to the surface, accumulated, and form a variant beast. The monsters made out of trash in the shape of an animal. It's basically an aggressive recycle art installation. If that explanation got you hooked, stop here. Read it first because maybe my stupid ass can't explain it clearly and it might ruin your experience or your interest in this. If you're gonna leave now, please subscribe. Now let's talk about the world building. It's not working for me, but not in a way you think. Not because a lack of effort. They're trying alright, but it's just too repetitive. In chapter 3 they explain that going out without a mask is poisonous, with a simple and clear explanation. However, 20 chapters later, they dedicated a whole chapter to explaining it again without adding any value. They introduce us to the first casualty of the toxic air, the most exciting guy in Canvas Town, but it fails to capture my attention. I find myself reading it just for the next fight scene, and not immersing myself in the world. I can let it pass if it's like everyone is in the shadow and doesn't take itself seriously, but chapter 26 is supposed to be heartwarming, and I think it's rushing too much. It's not doing a good job with characterization, and the flow of the story is messy. Honestly, the only character I care about is Rudo. They tease a little final boss, but that guy spouts nonsense words. Is that foreshadowing? If it is, then a silhouette of a guy saying words one at a time isn't a good way to do it. On the other hand, they gave Rudo an interesting rival, Jabber, a chaotic guy that fits the art style and the story properly. We understand why he is like this, because this is a world of anarchy. Even good guys like the janitors are a little crazy, and no one thinks the characters are out of place, because this is the product of their environment. That's good world building. The fight scenes is decent, but it's still messy, and it's my first time seeing a graffiti art style manga, so I have nothing to compare it with. something you can see on a wall or a skate park, but does it fit in a manga panel? Can it be an art style that can be understood without taking a double take? For me, it just feels loud or noisy. Basically, it takes me a few seconds to understand what's happening or for it to render in my mind. Maybe it's just a skill issue and you can understand patterns like that clearly, then it's on me. But with that said, I love that art style. It's unique and different, even though I love isekai, the genre with the most repetitive formula, but in this case, I appreciate the story the author wanted to make. Saying all that, maybe the author needs to slow down the pace, but not take too long to cook the story, because I feel like the author is setting up something here. They're setting up the pieces. There's a lot of one-time places and characters that are just there and don't affect the story as it is. I feel like it's a setup, but with the slow momentum building, we get a fast-paced character art or character development. I know it's hard to make a story, but it needs to be reversed. The setup needs to be fast and interesting, and the character arc and development needs to be slow and steady. Just let it soak in the story, but that's just my opinion. If you like the story as it is, feel free to prove me wrong in the comments. And subscribe if you like the content like this so I can make more. If you want, you can give me suggestions in the comment on what's manga I should read, and I'll try to make a video about it. In conclusion, I have mixed feelings about this manga. After reading Gachiakuta and analyzing its concept, world building, character, and art style, the story starts with a strong premise and an interesting world, but the repetitive exposition and the messy flow leave something to be desired. While the art style is unique and fitting for the punk fantasy genre, it can be overwhelming and distracting sometimes. Despite its flaws, I appreciate the effort put into the power system, and the character of Rudo stands out as a well-developed and relatable protagonist. Overall, I think Gachiakuta has potential and may appeal to fans of the funk genre and unconventional storytelling. But it's not for everyone. I may continue reading it to see how the story develops, why some may skip it altogether. How about you? What do you think? Tell me in the comments, subscribe, and peace out.